The 2023-2024 NBA season was one of the craziest, weirdest, and funniest seasons we've ever seen.
What is going on with that?
Wow. Zion Williamson, he looks fat. He looks fat.
If you take his brain out and you put it in the bird is going to start flying backwards, okay? You got that, Joe Mazzulla.
I called him a TikToker, and I got a tech.
From it, knocked it free, and Torrey Craig!
No, you gotta be kidding me.
I'm sorry, before I finish. You subscribe to
WillSoTrill?
Do I subscribe to you? I do not subscribe.
So you can't interview me then.
But now that it's all over, it's time to revisit this crazy season and all the moments that defined it. With every NBA season, the craziness always begins and sets us up for what's to come with the NBA offseason. And this offseason was especially wild because a 7'5" alien, Victor Wembanyama, was set to make his arrival into the NBA after being drafted by the San Antonio Spurs at number 1. Once again, the Spurs getting lucky in the draft lottery, allowing them to take a future all-time great big man at number 1. History loves to repeat itself, but 500 miles north in Oklahoma City, another lanky big was ready to make his debut season in the NBA after having to sit out all of last year with an injury. Chet Holmgren would be fighting for that Rookie of the Year award just as hard as Victor, a race between a unicorn and an alien. What a time to be alive. Every NBA offseason though is full of its trade rumors and free agency rumors, and it was the Boston Celtics who got us started with the trade season as they sent off former Degenerate Flopper of the Year award winner Marcus Smart to Memphis in a 3-team trade, where they received Tingus Pingus from Washington. The Wizards were then involved in another blockbuster trade a day later, sending off Bradley Beal, blowing up your team the year after the Wembanyama draft. Genius fucking plan, guys. But Beal was sent off to Phoenix for Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, and some draft capital. Of course, with CP3 now being older than NBA YouTuber 2-for-1, he now had no role with the rebuilding Wizards, so he was sent off to the Golden State Warriors in a trade for Jordan Poole. After Draymond rocked his ass in that practice a year ago, their relationship remained damaged, so the Warriors were forced to make a choice between Draymond and Poole. They chose 33-year-old Draymond. But there were also many trade rumors around two big star players in Damian Lillard and James Harden. Dame requested out of Portland after 11 years of not having a shot at a championship, and James Harden had a whole lot of drama with his GM Daryl Morey because James Harden and his camp wanted a deal for 2 years with Philly with the team option on the second year of his contract, and his camp was under the impression that Harden would receive that. Philly said they would make a strong offer when they were allowed to, but Harden didn't buy that and he wanted a trade. Harden thought that trade was going to happen fast, but it didn't.
Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Let me say that again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of again.
And these statements ended up getting James Harden fined $100,000 by the league.
What do you want James Harden to do? Send that to them in pennies? He don't care. It's $100,000. That ain't nothing to James Harden.
But still, there was no deals going through for these two players. Instead, we saw a couple smaller moves like Obi Toppin getting sent to the Pacers, the Mavericks getting Grant Williams, and the Hawks trading John Collins to Utah after they realized that they don't want to pay a Trae Young alley-oop merchant $25 million a year. And free agency itself wasn't all that eventful, with the biggest name Kyrie Irving choosing to return to Dallas after playing alongside Luka Doncic after rumors of him potentially joining the Lakers or the 76ers. And the Boston Celtics gave Jaylen Brown a new contract, which now gave him the richest contract in NBA history, $57 million a year, and everybody was talking about how bad this was. But just under a month before the season was about to get started, the big name star trade market finally heated up.
88 days ago, Damian Lillard requested a trade out of Portland, and today our Adrian Wojnarowski reports that he is on his way to the Milwaukee Bucks.
Finally, after months of waiting, a trade was made for Damian Lillard in a 3-team deal. The Bucks sent away Drew Holiday and draft capital to Portland, while the Suns also got involved, sending DeAndre Ayton to Portland as they got Grayson Allen from the Bucks and Yusuf Nurkic from the Blazers in return. And then in a crazy plot twist, the Bucks rivals Boston Celtics then traded for Drew Holiday just a few days later. This becomes even more awkward because before Milwaukee traded him, Drew came out and said that he wanted to be a Buck until he retired. Either way, James Harden is sitting at home upset that he is still waiting to be traded.
It should have been me, not him!
Now that wasn't all from this wild offseason. John Morant got a 25-game suspension after he showed off his fire yet again on a live stream. Victor Wembanyama already had an entire music fan base hating on him just a few days after coming to America because of this Britney Spears incident. LeBron James came to the realization of how old he is.
LeBron James is the oldest player in the NBA. Your reaction?
And then Jimmy Butler became emo.
This is my emotional state.
I'm one with my emotions.
Yeah, that's enough of this shit, man. Let's get to the season. Now, before we get into the chaos that is this NBA season, I want to show you how to get the best deals on tickets to your favorite sporting events using today's sponsor, SeatGeek. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 ticketing app out there. I personally used SeatGeek so many times as recently as a week ago. I had to go see Leo Messi play, man, of course, in the Copa America versus Canada, which was just so incredible to witness him play in person. And of course, I'm fully expecting the GOAT himself to lead Argentina to that Copa America final, which is in Miami. And as you see here, these are the tickets available, which they pull from all across the internet to make sure you're getting a good deal. They also rank tickets for you on a 1 to 10 scale of how good of a deal that you're getting. So you want to look for the green dots, which indicates a good deal, and a red dot indicating a bad deal. And SeatGeek is actually the only site that also allows you to return your tickets before your event using swaps. There's so many big sporting events coming up to witness, such as the Copa America, baseball season, and of course, the NFL schedule is out as well. And y'all know that I'm coming through for y'all because you can use my code WillSoTrill for $20 off your first purchase on SeatGeek. Download the app using the link down below in the description and don't miss out on the best deals to go see your favorite players and teams play live in person. Thank you to SeatGeek again for sponsoring today's video, man, but let's get to the chaos. The 2023-2024 NBA season was officially set to begin here in late October, and it began with the Western Conference doubleheader. The Lakers and LeBron James taking on the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals rematch. Much like that series, the Lakers didn't put much of a fight in this one, with the Nuggets winning the game. But Phoenix versus Golden State would bring us a matchup between Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, although it was mostly Devin Booker versus Curry, with D-Book having 32 in a close win. However, neither of these matchups brought in the viewership of a battle in Texas between Dallas and San Antonio. This would be the debut of Victor Wembanyama. He had a fairly quiet game, putting up 15 and 5, but the basketball world was tuned in to see this guy play. Just shy of 3 million average viewers, and it peaked just shy of 4 million viewers, more than the actual opening night games from the night before. And the Spurs actually found themselves in position to win this game, but Luka Magic was ultimately the dagger. But the NBA script really started to cook as we finally got a LeBron versus KD matchup for the first time in 5 years. Kevin Durant scored 39 in this game, being a mid-range assassin like always, and LeBron only put up 21, but he still made the plays down the stretch to be the one coming away with the win. And on that same night out in the East, Damian Lillard would make his debut as a Milwaukee Buck against Philly, scoring the most points ever for a Buck in their debut with the team, 39 points and some clutch plays in the fourth quarter to win the game. You already know that it's Dame time. Also, no James Harden in this game, of course. He has refused to play again for Philly. Oh, and that Luka Magic we saw earlier, yeah, that continued into his second game of the season.
Keep shooting.
Right back at you. Shot clock at 5 seconds. Flip it over to Luka. Stare down three. It's on the money again. 14 out of 23 from the floor. Looking for his 8th three. He got it. He got it. 4 seconds. Got it from Kleba. Again late in the clock. In desperation. He breaks it up. And that is Luka Magic right there.
I mean, what the hell is that shot? Sometimes there's nothing you can do, and there was nothing Brooklyn could have done with this 49-point game by Luka, cementing himself as a big early season MVP candidate. And staying in Texas, we had another matchup of Texas teams with Houston and San Antonio. Rockets fans really wanting this win after Wembanyama celebrated during the draft lottery after realizing that he would not be going to Houston. But Wemby gave Rockets fans nothing to celebrate as he made some massive plays late in the fourth to force overtime where the Spurs won the game. And Wemby taunted Dillon Brooks after Brooks said before the game that he's just tall. Yeah, NBA players hate this guy because look at what Steph did to him in the next game.
This is screens to get Brooks off of him. Oh, he crossed him over. Let Brooks fly by.
A new scenery this season, but yeah, everybody still hates Dillon Brooks. We'll definitely be seeing more of that. But something crazy happened on Halloween, and I'm not talking about Victor Wembanyama having the most accurate Slenderman costume of all time, or Giannis being the Hulk.
Did you find yourself channeling your inner Hulk tonight?
Yeah, at times. I'm doing this for my kids, man.
It wasn't any of that. It was the trade that finally broke after months of waiting. James Harden was finally moved, and his new team will be the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers now had Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook. I mean, imagine that team back in 2017. In his first press conference, though, Harden went viral after saying this.
I'm not a system player. I am a system.
And his comment wasn't looking good. The Clippers went on to lose their first 6 games of the new James Harden era, and he was getting cooked.
Because, James, you're not the beard, you're not the system, you're the problem.
By the way, this guy went on an entire 2-minute yapathon about James Harden and how he's the problem. I know this is a long ass video, but look at the time that I'm saving y'all. That wasn't the only hating going on in the media though, because Shaq wanted to push his damn Wembanyama Bobo gimmick.
He's never seen a guy like Wembanyama. Yes, you have. His name is Bobo.
You think Bobo?
Let me finish my point.
They both black or something?
Then in Wemby's very next game, he went on to drop 38 points on the Phoenix Suns while Bobo sat on the bench the whole game collecting a DNP. Looks like somebody done took this one personal. And soon enough, we got our first shameless officiating moments of the season.
Giannis' third block, he's gonna take it off. Hooray! A hammer like nobody has. If they called a technical foul on Giannis, that's his second, and he would be gone for the game.
And he's out. He's gone.
He's gonna sit down in the front row and watch.
They really ejected this man over a stare down. Launch an investigation on this white man right here immediately. Giannis obviously couldn't believe it. I mean, look at the guy. Just at least let him watch the game courtside. But on that exact same night, Anthony Edwards got himself a tech for the exact same thing.
Finding Edwards, driving. Oh, get out the way! Technical foul is called.
I mean, come on, what you want from these guys? You want them to be robots like Kawhi Leonard? Let these humans show basic emotions after a great play. They earned it. On the other end though, you have Draymond Green, who started choking out Rudy Gobert after a fight broke out in this game between Minnesota and Golden State. This will land Draymond Green a 5-game suspension, with the league just getting tired of his antics and history of being insane. And you're probably thinking to yourself right now, what in the hell is that basketball court? Well, this right here is one of 30 new courts that each team has for the brand new in-season tournament the NBA introduced this season, which we'll get more into that in a bit, because after 6 straight losses since adding James Harden, the Clippers finally broke their losing streak because of James Harden.
Harden. This is for the lead. Oh, he put it in! Counted and a foul! Oh my goodness!
A big time shot by James Harden against one of his former teams, but another player was set to play their former team, Drew Holiday, against the Milwaukee Bucks as a new member of the Boston Celtics. Drew came to the Bucks locker room before the game and everybody was happy to see him, and despite shooting 1 for 8 from the field, Holiday's Celtics did come away with a 3-point win. But the Celtics were blowing Milwaukee out for a lot of this game. It wasn't until the fourth quarter where they started turning up to make this a close one. But that was a trend so far for this Bucks team. They just played terribly through 3 quarters, then suddenly become the greatest fourth quarter team of all time. Such an interesting basketball team. Down in San Antonio, there was another star facing off against his former team, this time Kawhi Leonard versus the Spurs, who didn't have the best exit from San Antonio, so fans still felt some type of way about him as they started booing him at the free throw line. Then Greg Popovich had a +1 respect moment.
Excuse me for a second.
Pops on the mic.
Stop all the booing, let these guys play. It's got no class, it's not who we are. Knock off the booing.
I'm telling the fans to lay off Kawhi Leonard.
But now in Phoenix, we visit a classic rivalry. Obviously, not the Suns versus Warriors. I'm talking about Chris Paul versus Scott Foster. Even though it's really not much of a rivalry, Scott Foster kicks his ass every time, and he did it here again.
This has been going on for a good 45 seconds.
This has been going
and now
on
a
for
technical
13
foul.
years.
Scott Foster had enough. Something different than maybe he. Oh, he's going to get tossed. There it is. Scott Foster says goodbye.
He said this has been going on for 45 seconds. This has been going on for 19 years.
We had a situation some years ago, and it's personal. The league knows, everybody knows.
And this right here would conclude a wild first month of the season with so much more craziness yet to come. And December got started with some big games out west. The Clippers starting to get back on track after another clutch shot from one of their stars.
Shot clock is dark, they're down by 2. George wants it all, the 3! Oh my goodness! Hot damn! Paul George pushed the Clippers out in front by 1!
Yeah, this team is way too talented to be below 500, and they were beginning to hit their stride. The Mavs and Thunder faced off as well, 2 teams that look like strong playoff contenders so far, but Dallas was getting blown out of this game, down by 24 points in the fourth quarter. But this 3 right here started one of the most insane runs that you'll ever see. They put on a masterclass over the next 8 minutes of play, a 30-0 run, ending off with a 2-way play by Luka Doncic.
Longest run in team history. Oh, 8 straight. Luka just picked the pocket of Chet Holmgren. 30 in a row. 30 in a row. 30 in a row.
But basketball is a game of runs, of course, and over the final minutes of the game, OKC went on their own run, ultimately winning the game. Remember that in-season tournament though, the group stage games were finally all played over the past month and the winners of each group made it to the knockout rounds. These 8 teams competing for the title of NBA Cup champion, which would mean receiving this trophy and of course, everybody's favorite, some money.
We're gonna get at least $100,000, so that'll make it easier.
Are we getting money now? We got some money?
That's a surprise to you.
The rich get richer.
And Giannis' shot at that money became more likely as the Bucks took down the Knicks to make the semifinal, while the Indiana Pacers made it out from the other side, beating Boston. Out west, the Lakers would defeat the Suns, and the Pelicans got past the Kings to set up the Final Four of the tournament. The Pacers and Bucks game was a close one late in the game, but a run by the Pacers ending with a Tyrese Halliburton dagger was it, and this right here was his celebration afterward.
That's also a sign of respect and acknowledgement for, knowing my history and knowing what I do. When you having your moment, it's important to be careful and to be humble when you having your moments, because you just never know how the tables turn and when they're gonna turn.
Then out west, the Lakers completely blew out the Pelicans to reach the finals against Indiana, setting up the first ever in-season tournament final. And it was here that the Los Angeles Lakers eventually took control of this game behind strong performances from AD, LeBron, and Austin Reeves. The champions of the in-season tournament given their medals and some extra hardware for LeBron James with the MVP of the tournament. But from this tournament came some crazy discourse around Zion Williamson and his weight.
I saw the brother go to the free throw line. He looked like he had a belly. You got chefs in New Orleans who love him. They're looking for him. Every chef there wants to meet him because they know he'll show up to their restaurant. The word out on Zion Williamson is that he'll eat the table. I'm quoting. He'll eat the table.
He'll eat the table is crazy, but yeah, Zion has some weight issues now more than ever before. It's become a serious problem, and it's a reason why he's been unable to stay healthy. And Draymond Green was also becoming a guy unable to stay on the court, but for completely different reasons. Bro just swung on Yusuf Nurkic out of nowhere. This man, donkey, whatever he is, he's out of control.
What's going on with him? I don't know. Personally, I feel like that brother needed help. I'm glad he not trying to choke me, but at the same time, and nothing to do with basketball, man.
Never seen that before on the basketball court in the NBA game. I hope Draymond gets the help he needs.
After a 5-game suspension following his last WWE masterclass, this one was of course going to be more serious than that. And it was so serious that the league said, you know what, you just gonna get suspended indefinitely. Of course, we'll be seeing more of Draymond later. But we had a rematch of the in-season tournament semifinal between Milwaukee and Indiana. And earlier in the season, when these teams faced off, Giannis dropped 54 points in a loss. This time around, he somehow increased that. This man went out there and dropped 64 points for the first 60-point game of the season.
2for1 says no one will score 60 or more points this season.
And he did this without making a single 3-point shot. Like, look at this shot chart right here. Nothing but pure dominance, man. I love it. But the main storyline from this game was a huge dispute over the game ball. Giannis wanted the game ball after scoring his career high and breaking the Bucks single game scoring record, but the Pacers had taken it for themselves to give to Oscar Tshiebwe, who scored his first career points. Who the fuck is Oscar Tshiebwe? Giannis ran into the Pacers locker room and there was a big argument between everyone, and Giannis ended up getting a ball back.
Can you confirm that you have the game ball from tonight?
I have no idea. I'm not gonna lie. I have no idea. I have the ball, but I don't know if it's a game ball. It doesn't feel like the game ball to me.
Yeah, we were witnessing potentially the start of a new rivalry here, but Giannis was averaging 51 points per game on this squad through 3 matchups so far. Unbelievable. That defense simply has no answer. A couple nights later, we had 2-game winners in the same night.
2 seconds left. Butler, step back for the win. Yes! Jimmy Butler delivers the victory.
Probing, piercing, spinning, hanging for the lead, and SGA knocks it down.
Shea was leading this OKC team to a pretty strong start so far as the 2 seed out west, possibly another strong MVP candidate. But finally, after over 50 days, fans across the NBA got what we had been waiting for, the return of Ja Morant. And it was electric. He dropped 34 points in the game with many of his sensational acrobatic finishes in a game that went down to the final possession.
With a chance to win it in his return. Here goes Morant. He spins. Morant scores! And the timer expires. Count the basket.
I'm a dog. I put work in day out. And
And Memphis went on to win their next 4 games with Ja Morant back. His impact was showing quickly. December 25th was rolling around though, which meant a Christmas Day slate of games. And while it wasn't the best lineup, that final game of the night delivered as Luka Doncic went crazy. He dropped 50 points and had 15 assists, kicking the Suns' ass once again to give them some PTSD for the holiday season. But the holiday season wasn't going too good for one fan base in particular, as over the past months, they had been watching their team lose game after game, literally every single game. The Detroit Pistons lost their 27th straight game at home against Brooklyn, where they were getting booed by their own fans. And the next game was against the Boston Celtics, who had the best record in the league, so everyone was expecting that streak to continue on to 28 games. But hold on, man, the Pistons were actually playing good basketball. They were up by 24 points here, just to blow it all away in the second half and head to overtime where they would eventually lose. We believed in you, Detroit. What the hell was this? But eventually all things come to an end, and it was finally time for that to be applied to the Pistons' losing streak. A close win in Toronto ended their 28-game nightmare.
Thank God, finally. And guys were screaming. I was almost in tears.
This loss for the Raptors also came on the same day that they decided to trade OG Anunoby to New York. They'd have Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett coming into the team in return. But to end off the calendar year, Ja Morant gave rookie sensation Victor Wembanyama and the fans what he called a late Christmas gift.
That's what everybody wanted, so my gift, late Christmas gift.
But January was set to be an even more wild month in the NBA. Things were only beginning to heat up. Scoring was about to get ridiculous. 2 great offenses started us off in a new year between Indiana and Milwaukee, that brewing rivalry in the Central Division. This time, Giannis only scored 30 points and the Bucks lost the game. And only 2 days later, they had their chance at some get back, but they let the Pacers score 142 points in a game. Ridiculous. 272 points scored between the two teams. And now the Bucks were 1-4 on the season against Indiana.
And you think about it. Now when you go back home and you sleep and you wake up, you think about it. Now when you go back and work out, you think about it. When you're about to get freaky at night, you think about it.
But we ain't done with the Bucks shits yet, because the next day they came down to Texas, where WillSoTrill himself was in attendance to see the first matchup of Victor Wembanyama and Giannis Antetokounmpo. It was special.
Fake a spin by Steph inside. Look at them guard one another. Trying to poke it away. It's 10th, 12 for Middleton. Wembanyama. Goes down and puts it down. Lillard out of the Antetokounmpo. Antetokounmpo outside. Under a minute to go. Giannis drives. Drops the sledgehammer. He's going to be able to guard him. The screen, the drive. It's knocked away by Wembanyama.
So many amazing plays in this game by these freaks of nature, and it went down to the final possession as well. Definitely game of the year up to this point. 44 points by Giannis, 27 points by Victor. But you know what? Let's check in on what's going on with Draymond after all the things he's done this season.
I had a conversation with Adam Silver, commissioner of our league. I just told him, Adam, it's too much for me. This is too much. It's all becoming too much for me, and I'm going to retire. And Adam said, you're making a very rash decision, and I won't let you do that.
Well, damn, this man was about to call it a career, but everyone around him convinced him otherwise, and he would be reinstated after his indefinite suspension after just over 10 games without the team, so that meant Draymond's return was imminent. And just when we got Ja Morant back and he had been playing so well, a shoulder injury that required surgery now put him out for the entire season. Extremely unfortunate season in Memphis going on. Bad officiating made its return though, with the Toronto Raptors being on the unfortunate end of it, and their coach was pissed off after the game.
What happened tonight? This is completely BS. This is shame. Shame for the referees, shame for the league to allow this. 23 free throws for them, and we get 2 free throws in the fourth quarter. And this is not happening first time for us. Scotty Barnes is going to be all-star. He's going to be the face of this league. And what's happening over here during whole season, I've been holding it back. It's a complete crap.
He wasn't having any of that, man. You gotta respect him calling it out. Hopefully somebody paid off that $25K fine he got in the mail though. Both 1 seeds were set to face off in a big game here with the Wolves and the Celtics, and it was an amazing game, going down to an overtime finish where Jason Tatum put the finishing touches on the game. A statement win by Boston, and they had a chance to make it 2, with the Milwaukee Bucks up next on the schedule. But to put it as lightly as possible, they got their ass kicked, man. It was already 73-38 by halftime. This game was over to the extent that Boston didn't even play their starters in the second half. They just waved the white flag after 24 minutes. I mean, the game got so bad that TNT had to make the executive call to get that shit off of the broadcast. They couldn't have this game up. The Bucks took this momentum into the next game, beating the Warriors before having a very eventful game versus Sacramento. This game was already extremely high scoring. Both teams just decided to say forget defense for the night. And then Mike Brown completely lost his shit on the sideline. He was pissed off with the referees, leading to an ejection, and we'll hear more of why. But this game went into overtime, and it ended in typical Damian Lillard fashion.
3 seconds. Dame pulls for the
Just another clutch moment from one of the clutchest players in the league, and it got us this great photo. Y'all gotta chill on my guy Thanasis though. He don't got internet, man. You don't really know what's going on. And in the press conference, we got to hear from Mike Brown, and his ass came with the receipts. He got a whole laptop presentation for us. I ain't never seen this before.
Fox barely puts his hand on Dame's hip. Okay, incidental contact. He didn't push him or anything. He barely puts his hand on there, and they give him 3 free throws.
Over in Memphis, without Ja now, they definitely had to have some more guys step up for them, and the youngest player in the league, G.G. Jackson, did that with 23 points off the bench in a win versus the Warriors, and he had the opportunity to get interviewed after the game, which gave us a wholesome moment.
G.G. Shaq here. I don't have any questions. I just want to say congratulations, young fella. You played a hell of a game, and if people didn't know who you were, they know who you are now.
Well, yes, sir, it's an honor to get to hear your voice. Appreciate you.
Under a month away from the trade deadline now, we saw the Raptors make another trade, this time sending off their star Pascal Siakam to the Indiana Pacers, a big move for Indiana that could definitely push them into the playoffs. This month of January would be so full of big-time highlight plays and huge performances as well, starting off with Anthony Edwards, who can fly.
Edwards! The explosion to the rim!
On that same night, we also had 2 game winners.
Murray, 3 seconds, 2. DJ for the win. Got it! Bridges comes out with Simons. Here is Simons for the win. Drives into the lane, running right.
And DeJounte wasn't done yet. This was in the very next game.
Here comes Murray, a 3 for the lead. He made it with 2 seconds left. DeJounte Murray.
And on this same night, we saw one of the NBA's most entertaining superstars get real creative.
Fun game here in the Twin Cities. Look at the moves by Edwards. Swashbuckling and slamming.
Which gave Joel Embiid some inspiration.
Going right half Batanze. I think Embiid might have been watching Ant Edwards play a little hoop last night.
In Joel Embiid's next game, he would get his first look at Victor Wembanyama, and bro couldn't believe how tall he was.
What are you looking forward to the most with this being the first time Joel is taking on Victor?
We're going to hammer his ass.
Yeah, Joel Embiid wasn't fazed at all. He went out there and dropped a new season high for any player with 70 points. 16 of those 70 were scored on Wemby himself, but this now made Embiid the 9th player to ever record a 70-point game in NBA history. He was solidifying himself as the MVP favorite. And on that night, there was another big man who had a career game. Karl Anthony Towns went off having a 62-point game. Yeah, we had entered that stretch of the season where everybody just starts scoring like crazy, and it wasn't stopping because Devin Booker had his own 62-point game against the Indiana Pacers. Everybody's running up the numbers on this team, but somehow they won the game, meaning Devin Booker now has losses in 2 games, scoring over 60 points. That's wild. But that wasn't even the highest scoring game of the night because Luka Doncic had to outdo that man, and he even outdid Joel Embiid, a 73-point game on the Atlanta Hawks. Just pure insanity. Now, of course, there was already a lot of craziness around the Milwaukee Bucks season so far, but it got even crazier because after starting the season with a strong 30-13 record, they fired their head coach Adrian Griffin, who had apparently lost the locker room. With his departure came in Doc Rivers. The Bucks did all the NBA fans a service by getting this man and his raspy ass voice off the microphone.
Well, it was a one-time thing, but when I was in San Antonio,
don't nobody want to hear that shit, man. Over in San Antonio, Victor got his first look at their bat problem. He'll be getting used to this, and I wonder if he'll knock one out the air like Manu did that one time. But this extraterrestrial later shocked everyone by beating the Defensive Player of the Year favorite Rudy Gobert with a sham god. A 7'5" player doing a sham god. We're in the end game, man. This basketball shit is over. This Timberwolves team was balling though. They had the 1 seed in a big matchup coming versus OKC, who was the 2 seed in the conference. Despite 37 points from Shea, the Wolves did come away with the win, continuing to be the top team in the conference, but Anthony Edwards was not happy with the officiating in this one.
All around a team effort in this. I'm gonna take the fine because the refs did not give us no calls tonight.
And he did take the fine for that, but $40,000 is crazy. A matchup between the Warriors and 76ers got us the world record for the fastest foul, and of course, it had to be Draymond Green doing this. Come on, man. But Joel Embiid suffering a knee injury was the story of this one. The MVP favorite now likely out for a decent amount of time, meaning that MVP award would become impossible for him to win with the new rule of a 65 game played requirement to qualify for all the awards. Very tough break for Joel Embiid. But these events right here would wrap up the month of January with lots of crazy plays and high scoring games, all leading into the All-Star break. And the month began with the announcement of the All-Star teams with 4 new faces all in the Eastern Conference: Scotty Barnes, Paolo Banchero, Tyrese Maxey, and Jalen Brunson, which led to an emotional moment for Jalen Brunson.
The night started with you being named to your first All-Star game. Talk about the journey you've been on, MVP chance, and you're going to the All-Star game.
I got nothing to say. I got nothing to say.
Another All-Star reserve would be Steph Curry, who dropped a 60-point game right after it was announced that he was a reserve. Surprising to not see him be a starter, but 2 MVP candidates in Shea and Luka were just having better seasons. We had some more Dillon Brooks antics the month before between him and Tyrese when he stood over him in the middle of the game trying to be a menace. But Tyrese Halliburton, he remembered that, because after hitting a big-time dagger against the Rockets, he was talking shit straight to Dillon Brooks. Look, he just brings it upon himself, man. Over in Milwaukee, the Bucks were having a rough start since hiring Doc Rivers with a 1-5 start, much different from their 30-13 record before. And with the trade deadline coming up, they were a team that was expected to make some moves. And they did. Not the big moves that people thought was going to happen, but for Patrick Beverley, which is funny just because of the past that him and Damian Lillard have, and now they're on the same team. Although, of course, both players ready to put everything from the past to the side, coming together, trying to compete for this championship. A few other smaller moves happened at the deadline. Dallas getting Daniel Gafford, the Knicks getting Bojan Bogdanovic, 76ers getting Buddy Hield, and Dallas getting involved again, acquiring PJ Washington. With Dallas being the 8th seed in the Western Conference and in play-in contention, they were definitely looking to get better, and being active at the deadline was going to go a long way for them. Draymond Green was back in action against Yusuf Nurkic for the first time since he whacked the shit out of him, and they were getting physical, going at it all game. And after scoring on him, Nurk did the 2 small gestures, slapping the floor, and a minute later, Draymond Green did the exact same thing, returning that favor. But Curry put the end to this one.
Curry comes free, gets the ball, puts up a 3-pointer. Bang! Steph Curry nails the 3-pointer!
That's just a Curry shot. There's not much you can do about that. Checking back in on Victor Wembanyama, he was going crazy against the Toronto Raptors, recording 10 blocks for a triple-double with block shots. He's simply just not real, although still in a tight race with Chet Holmgren for Rookie of the Year with all the winning going on in OKC, but Victor was going to have something to say about that later this month. Now it was time for the All-Star festivities in Indiana, beginning with the celebrity game where these NFL stars took over the game. CJ Stroud was balling, but Micah Parsons put the broomstick on the other team to win the game and the MVP. And then we had the Rising Stars Challenge between these 4 teams. Obviously, one of these looking completely overpowered, but they somehow lost to the G League team. Those guys were trying their ass off out there, man, but they did lose in the final. The Skills Challenge took place between these 3 teams, and Anthony Edwards came out there trolling. This man was taking shots with his left hand. Of course, his team lost the challenge immediately. Scotty Barnes had his funny moments, and it was the hometown team winning the Skills Challenge. The 3-point contest had a wild first round with a 4-way tie between Trae Young, Tyrese Halliburton, Karl Anthony Towns, and Damian Lillard at 26 points. It was Halliburton who was eliminated in the tiebreaker round, and the final round was Dame time. He scored 26 once again to win it. Then we had something new, the 3-point challenge between the NBA's best shooter Steph Curry and the WNBA's best shooter Sabrina Ionescu. Sabrina shot first and she lit it up, man. 26 points, matching the highest score that we have seen in the 3-point contest before. But the GOAT shooter came through to defend his title, 29 points to win it. The dunk contest was the usual disaster that it has been these last few years. I mean, terrible judging, underwhelming dunks. Like, are we serious, Jaylen Brown? You are jumping over 5'4" Kai Cenat, who is sitting down in a chair. But at least Mac McClung came through and put on a show, just like last year, eventually winning after jumping over Shaq, not Kai Cenat sitting in the damn chair. And the next night, the All-Star game was basically an extension of the 3-point contest because these guys scored a total of of 397 points, the most ever scored in NBA All-Star Game history. Cat had the quietest 50-point game ever, and Dame got the All-Star Game MVP with his 39-point performance in the win, which included 2 half-court shots. What an all-star weekend from this man Damian Lillard. NBA action later returned and we got straight into the chaos with a fight breaking out between the Pelicans and the Heat where 4 different players got ejected, and then the Detroit Pistons had the worst 2-game stretch of luck ever.
He'll go to work, step back, over Durant, shot is up. Caro drills it out to Divyansh. 10 seconds ago, he throws it away. Ball loose, picked up by Brunson. Brunson inside the Hart.
The absolute worst call of the season. No call. And enough's enough. We had a chance to win the game, and the guy dove into Asar's legs, and there was a no call. And I got nothing else to say. We want a fair game, and that was not fair. I'm done.
And in the Dallas Mavericks. But to end off the month, we had the battle for the Rookie of the Year award between Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama. Up to this point, the Thunder had blown out the Spurs both times they had played, which played into Chet's case for Rookie of the Year having much more team success. But Victor, averaging 20, 10, and 3, was having the much better individual season, and it was all going to come down to this game. Where in the first half, what we usually saw was a 180. Chet's team was losing, but he had better numbers than Victor, and then Victor woke up. At your play. I mean, that was basically him rejecting Chet for the award. Wembanyama was going to get that Rookie of the Year for sure, and the odds were reflecting it because we were getting into the final stretch of the season. A whole lot would be going on here. Bad officiating got us started in March after Tony Brothers gave DeJounte a tech on the bench for ignoring him. It don't matter if he talk or not, Tony Brothers is still coming for him. And that's definitely not going to be the last that we see from Tony Brothers. But it was time for a big moment in NBA history. Brought over in Boston, the Celtics were having themselves a great season, holding the best record in the league, and their winning ways were set to continue against the Cleveland Cavaliers, up 22 points in the fourth quarter until Dean Wade happened.
93-71, Wade, that's a 3. Wade down low. Cut, Wade. Garland kicked. Wade, is he feeling it? Oh yeah! Cavaliers trying to move a little closer. Again? Yes, sir! Jared Allen on a kick. Wade, splash!
Dean Wade of all people giving you 20 points in the fourth quarter is crazy. I ain't never seen him act like this before. This really the best D Wade Cleveland ever had. Checking in on the other 1 seed out west, Minnesota was in a close one against Indiana.
Pacers have a chance. Up ahead, Neesmith blocked. Edwards getting up, and good night.
This athleticism is just ridiculous. He almost gave himself a concussion. And in their next game, Cleveland also gave them some problems in a close one where Rudy Gobert clearly wasn't happy about a call by the refs. They ended up handing him a $100,000 fine for that gesture, and I just want y'all to remember this moment come playoff time. Remember this, okay? And that same night, Jalen Green bodied Anthony Simons on what was potentially the dunk of the year. And then we had another one of those days with 2-game winners, the poor Detroit Pistons.
Get it off! Bam for 3! Irving for the win! A southpaw finish from Kyrie Irving!
Just a ridiculous shot. The ability of both Kyrie and Luka in the clutch is unbelievable. This team right here is starting to climb up the standings in the West after their trades. And who would have thought that a game between the Raptors and the Magic was going to make headlines? But anything is possible with Black Dick. And speaking of, Anthony Edwards laid it on John Collins.
Edwards gets it back!
Now that's gotta be dunk of the year. But minutes later out in Los Angeles, Jalen Johnson had his own. Austin Reeves getting a mouthful, ain't it? And staying out west, James Harden made the best defensive play of his career on his own teammate. Fair enough, James. We got some more scuffles here between Houston and Chicago as Dillon Brooks stood up for his teammate after a hard hit by DeRozan. Clearly, Ayo Dosunmu wasn't entertained by none of this. And then shit popped off in Houston again with Jabari Smith and Chris Dunn. The NBA is just getting crazy. Like even the referees were getting into it with the players. Chris Paul got a second technical foul called by Tony Brothers after they were talking back and forth, and this is what caused him to be ejected.
He's talking to me, I talk back. I called him a TikToker. I got a tech.
Yeah, that's gotta be a first. What the hell is going on in the NBA? And on top of that, Draymond Green started going crazy again. He grabbed Patty Mills by the neck on this play, was ejected 4 minutes into this Magic game for arguing with the refs, which had Steph Curry crying, and then he did the thing again. You gotta control yourself, Draymond. Now, you remember those back-to-back game winners by DeJounte? Yeah, he was making a name for himself in the clutch this season.
The floor is spread. It's Holiday. It's Murray from the top. Go!
But after possibly the most chaotic 30-day stretch so far this NBA season, it was time for the final month before the playoffs. One team out in the Eastern Conference that had themselves in good position was the New York Knicks. But to kick off the month, they had a rough start, losing to the San Antonio Spurs in a game where Brunson scored 61. This game was spoiled by Wemby, who had his first ever career 40-20 game while also throwing Brunson's career high game ball into the stands. Of course he got fined for that. The Mavericks were continuing their late season run where Luka put this game away against the Kings, and after, he waved goodbye to the Kings GM sitting courtside and yelled, "He should have drafted me." Luka's becoming a real deal trash talker. You gotta respect him. And against the Houston Rockets, he hit this ridiculous scoop layup from 20 feet out while blowing them out. Yeah, this team's getting hot just in time. But these two teams faced off again a week after, this time going down to the wire. And in overtime, the Mavs won this one behind 6 points from Kyrie Irving, 48 overall. A huge game for him and the Mavs, now creeping up the standings at the 5 seed. And Dillon Brooks got cooked in this game. Both Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic took turns making some crazy moves. This backcourt is no joke, and Dillon Brooks wants no part of this. On the flip side of Dallas, you have an underwhelming team that has disappointed for now consecutive years in Chicago. This play just completely sums up how the Bulls have been without Lonzo Ball. But the two big contenders in the East were facing off, the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. And like before here, the Bucks came out on fire and they were destroying the Celtics, leading by as much as 22 points in the third quarter. But in that third quarter, out of nowhere, Giannis fell to the floor with a lower body injury, and it was later discovered to be a calf strain, and now his availability come playoff time was uncertain. This was just the beginning of this season's incoming downfall. But we still had Wemby out there doing outrageous things. He had the nerve to bring out the Sham God yet again, but this time comboed with a spin move. And checking back in on Dallas, they have won their 50th game of the season, meaning Kyrie got his $1 million contract incentive, so he was happy about that and thanked all the guys on the bench. This game also locked them in for the 5th seed in the series against the LA Clippers. The Pelicans and Kings were two other teams looking to make the playoffs, and in this game, Zion ended up taking a fall that hurt his wrist, another injury here right before playoff time, although nothing that should be too serious for Zion. And after the game, Charles gave us this moment telling Zion he needs to know how to fall.
When you're falling, right, and you know, a lot of guys fall and they try to catch, no, you just, you do that. Yeah, there you go. You don't do that. You don't try to catch yourself.
During the last few days of the season, though, there was going to be a big-time race for the 1 seed in the West, with Denver, OKC, and Minnesota all having a chance at it. And Denver had the best chance at securing the 1 seed, taking on the Spurs and blowing them out by halftime. But Victor Wembanyama led an improbable comeback, scoring 17 points in just 3 minutes of game time. A player that has impressed us all season, and he just continues to get better and better each month, man. The league is in trouble. And the Spurs eventually went on to win the game off of a Devontae Graham game-winning shot, becoming the team that kept the Nuggets from getting the 1st seed in the Western Conference as the season ended, with OKC on top in the West and Boston on top in the Eastern Conference. But it was all about playoff basketball now. We'll play in basketball, which the Lakers have found themselves playing once again, this time against New Orleans. Zion Williamson was dominating this game after all the criticism he had faced earlier this season about being fat, scoring his 40th point on this play right here to tie it up late, but the trend was beginning. Here on this play, Zion suffered a hamstring strain that was set to keep him out for weeks. The Lakers closed this game out to advance to the playoffs as the 7th seed, taking on Denver in the first round, while New Orleans would have one more shot. And that shot would be against the winner of this matchup between Sacramento and Golden State. And the Kings won this one convincingly, while Klay Thompson put up 0 points on 10 shot attempts. This man is completely washed. We talking Celtic Shaq levels. And of course, the narrative now is that this might be his last game as a Warrior.
How do you view your future with the Warriors heading into this offseason that feels obviously pretty unknown?
We don't want to talk about the season first. You want to talk about the future.
In the East, the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers will be fighting for the 7th seed in the battle of play-in heavyweights. Shortly into the game, Joel Embiid flopped while taking a free throw.
Man, I found out
down to my knees when the law came.
And once again, another injured star player. Jimmy sprained his MCL on this play, meaning that he would miss multiple weeks as well with this injury. Without Jimmy playing, the 76ers had an easier time in this one and eventually got the win, although they did almost have a crazy choke at the end of the game. But Miami could still make the playoffs if they beat the winner of this Hawks-Bulls matchup, which also had its own injuries as Alex Caruso got taken out by his own teammate, Andre, again. Regardless, Chicago won the game, setting up a matchup between them and the Miami Heat for the final playoff spot. You would think that without Jimmy, the Bulls might take this one, but no, they are the Chicago Bulls, heating the Celtics in the first round. And New Orleans will secure the final playoff spot without Zion taking down the Kings to set up a matchup with OKC in the first round, meaning the playoff bracket was now set, and it's time for the 2024 NBA Championship to find its home. The first seed in the West, Oklahoma City, was heavily favored in their matchup with the Pelicans without Zion, but game one actually went down to the wire, CJ McCollum having a chance to win it, but the shot didn't fall. But the rest of the series would not be so interesting. I mean, blowout wins for OKC in the next two games and then a closeout game for a win, advancing to round two. Not much to say here. And OKC will be facing off against the winner of this Dallas Mavericks versus Los Angeles Clippers series. Kawhi Leonard would be unavailable for game one. Yes, another injury. He had an inflammation in his right knee, but that didn't seem to matter for the Clippers because they held on to a double-digit lead for the majority of this entire game to take the 1-0 series lead. Leonard was back for game two, but it was the Mavericks leading late in this one.
Doncic lines it up. It goes! He is that guy!
The Mavericks defended their home court in game three, where we got some extracurriculars leading to Russell Westbrook's first playoff ejection. 2-1 series lead now in favor of the Mavs, with the Clippers looking to avoid the 3-1 deficit. And in that game four, PG was going crazy, giving the Clippers a comfortable lead. The Mavs got back into the game where Kyrie made this unreal finish. I don't even know how he got it off, but Harden and PG closed it out without Kawhi Leonard, who is now out for the series. And this play by Kyrie summarizes how the rest of this series went.
Irving dancing, prancing, pulls up, three-pointer, bang! And a foul!
The Dallas Mavericks now on to the second round of the playoffs. The Suns versus Timberwolves would be a matchup between one of the NBA's most surprising teams this year and one of the NBA's most disappointing teams this year, and it played like it. Anthony Edwards wanted all the smoke with Kevin Durant, 33 points and a huge win against Phoenix.
That's my favorite player of all time, so that was probably one of the best feelings ever in my whole life.
Game two was another big win for Minnesota, and we saw Jaden McDaniels outplay Kevin Durant.
You know, they got KD, but we got Jaden McDaniels.
And game three saw another blowout, once again led by Anthony Edwards with this time 36 points, a huge game for him, and he was feeling it being up 3-0. But Minnesota was looking for not only their first sweep in franchise history, they were seeking their first playoff series win in 20 years. Anthony Edwards was here to deliver.
Edwards. A signature slam!
A 40-point game to close it out and complete the sweep, and was letting them know about it. That Bradley Beal shit ain't work out too well for Phoenix either. He has 6 points and 6 turnovers in this elimination game. You cannot be doing that. The T-Wolves' opponents in round two would be determined by this last series in the West, the Lakers and the Nuggets. But in a series with LeBron James, this one was all about Jamal Murray.
Makes a move.
Now, unlike last year's Western Conference Finals, the Lakers actually delivered and pulled out a single win to avoid getting swept, but they still were not going to avoid that man Jamal Murray.
Screen, Murray to try to break the
First ever in-season tournament champions, first round exits. Let's see what they got going on in the East. Another conference finals rematch was happening here in the first round, with the Miami Heat being without both Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier for this entire series. They made it semi-interesting by winning game two, but Boston clearly had them outmatched. They won the series in 5 games. In game 4 though, yet another injury to an important piece in these playoffs, this time Kristaps Porzingis, going down with the same injury that Giannis suffered a couple weeks before. Boston's second round opponent would come from this year's NBA TV series. This was probably the most uneventful 7-game series ever. The first 4 games all decided by double digits before we finally got a good finish in game 5 with this Evan Mobley rejection. Game 6 was another close one, with Donovan Mitchell dropping a 50-piece in a loss, feeling like LeBron in 2018. But in game 7, a huge Cavs second half got them the series, and Donovan Mitchell does not want Boston.
The crowd is chanting, "We want the Celtics," and Donovan Mitchell's telling them, "No, not yet."
The 3-6 matchup between Indiana and Milwaukee was another series that was looking to be underwhelming because Giannis Antetokounmpo was still unavailable to play, while the Pacers would also be without Benedict Mathurin. But the Bucks still had Damian Lillard, who went off in the first half of game 1 with 35 points. He was scoreless in the second half, but the Bucks had this one in the bag. The Pacers responded by winning game 2, and we had another injury in this one with a Chris Middleton ankle sprain. But already down their franchise player with Giannis still unavailable and not showing much progress in his recovery, Middleton decided that he was going to play game 3 where he was going off despite his injury. A 42-point performance and the shot that made sure that this one went into overtime. It was heroic, but in overtime it was Tyrese Halliburton. A tough loss for Milwaukee, but to make it even worse, now Damian Lillard was also injured from game 3, suffering an Achilles strain. How in the hell did all of Milwaukee's top 3 players get injured in the span of 2 weeks? This season is cursed. Dame would have to sit game 4, and just 7 minutes into the game, Bobby Portis said, "Fuck it, I'ma get ejected." Already down to 2 best players on the team, this is truly one of Bobby Portis' smartest moments. But yeah, the Pacers win this one and take game 4. In game 5 though, the Bucks defended their home court without Giannis and Dame, 29 points from the dummy who got himself ejected last game. Damian Lillard returned for game 6, still no Giannis for Milwaukee though, and that right there was the series as Indiana took care of business in the second half, advancing to the second round. What a chaotic season in Milwaukee, but we know they're gonna be back. The last first round matchup in these playoffs was expected to be an exciting one between the Knicks and the 76ers, who got Joel Embiid back from injury just in time for the postseason. The Knicks were coming in with some of their own injuries though, with no Julius Randle or Bojan Bogdanovic, who they traded for at the deadline. At this point, I have lost count of how many injuries we've seen so far. This is just getting ridiculous, and now it got even more ridiculous.
For the Knicks. Oh, Joel Embiid off the backboard, but he's holding on to that left knee.
I mean, this is brutal. He just got back from injury and now he was hurt again. On top of that, playing through Bell's palsy. But when nobody expected it, this man was right back out there for the second half, so I guess he's good. Either way, the Knicks took this game 1 and they ended game 2 with a chaotic series of events.
Hardenstein with an offensive rebound. Another chance here. DiVincenzo. He's got it.
The Knicks now up 2-0 after that, and the 76ers needing to win to stay alive here in game 3, but Joel Embiid almost got his ass thrown out of the game with this play. What in the world was he thinking? But really none of that mattered because Embiid only got a flagrant 1 foul and went on to score a playoff career high of 50 points. But go ahead and add another injury to the list because Mitchell Robinson had to leave this game in a walking boot after re-injuring his ankle shortly after the play he was dragged down by Embiid. Embiid earned himself a real dirty reputation in this series. He was coming for everybody on the Knicks. This man reckless as hell. But New York got their revenge in game 4 behind a 47-point game by Jalen Brunson, a commanding 3-1 lead for the Knicks. Tyrese Maxey kept Philly's hopes alive, scoring 46 points in game 5, which included this wild logo 3 to force overtime. They desperately needed this performance, but the first round ended here. The New York Knicks winning game 6 behind another 40-point performance by Jalen Brunson. Despite being down 3 rotational players, they were fighting to get through these playoffs. And game 1 between Indiana and New York was a good one. This man Obi Toppin had the nerve to throw down a between the legs dunk in the middle of it. But Jalen Brunson's heroics continued. He dropped 21 points in the fourth quarter alone to lead the Knicks to a win. 43 points altogether in this one. He ain't playing with nobody. But in the first half of the next game, Brunson suffered a foot injury that took him out until halftime. Another injury in this postseason is crazy, but he came back in the second half to drop 24 of his 29 points to lead New York to another win. And Josh Hart let Reggie Miller know on the call that Knicks fans weren't messing with him. But late in the game, the Knicks suffered another injury. OG Anunoby strained his hamstring in the third quarter, so they would be without him for some time. The Pacers had to defend home court in game 3 to keep their season alive in another close game.
Double team, shot clock at 4. Nembhard's got to put it up. Step back, his three-pointer. Nembhard knocks the 3 down.
Yeah, Tyrese could not believe that shit just went in, and then the Pacers blew out the New York Knicks in game 4 to even up the series. The Knicks returned the favor in game 5 at Madison Square Garden behind a 44-point performance by Jalen Brunson. He has elevated his game to a completely different level in these playoffs. But Indiana would force a game 7 with Josh Hart in serious pain on the bench with an abdominal injury. This shit has just gone too far. But game 7 was set and the Knicks were getting OG Anunoby back. But that didn't last long. He played just 4 minutes, and to make things worse for the Knicks, Halliburton was going off to give Indiana an early lead. The Knicks were fighting back in the third quarter, but Jalen Brunson broke his hand and wouldn't play a single minute in the fourth quarter because of it. Indiana goes on to win this one, advancing to the conference finals. The Knicks had themselves such a great season, but to see 6 of their key players being hurt in the playoffs is some of the worst luck ever. But that's just how this weird season has been. Over in the Boston versus Cleveland matchup, both teams had their own injuries coming into into the series, the Celtics missing Porzingis and Cleveland missing Jarrett Allen. Boston would take game 1 in a blowout led by 32 points from Jaylen Brown, but Cleveland came right back in the next game with a statement blowing the Celtics out right back. Boston bounced back in the next one to take the 2-1 series lead, but another injury. Are y'all fucking for real, man? Now Donovan Mitchell with a calf strain. He was not available to play for game 4, which of course the Boston Celtics took with a commanding 3-1 lead. And with no Donovan Mitchell in game 5 for Cleveland as well, it was time to hang this one up. Another series win in 5 for Boston. They're heading to the conference finals again as expected. Fresh off a sweep in their last series, OKC started off on fire in this one against Dallas, blowing them out to take the early lead in the series. They were looking great, but Dallas bounced back in game 2 with their trade deadline acquisition PJ Washington playing like a child support payment was due. 29 points and 7 threes from him. PJ did it again in game 3 with 27 points this time, but it was Kyrie Irving that delivered a tough dagger. Dallas now in control of the series. Game 4 also went down to the wire where Luka Doncic had 2 free throws to tie the game, but he missed the first and Dallas could not recover. We have a 2-2 series here, and there's also reports of Luka playing through a knee sprain here. Yes, another injury. But he dropped a 31-point triple-double in game 5, including a clutch block on Shea in transition to lead Dallas to a pivotal 3-2 series lead. Game 6 would be incredible with these two teams going back and forth late in the fourth quarter, hitting some ridiculous shots. This was just amazing basketball on display, but it came down to a final possession for Dallas with a shot at the win, and PJ Washington was fouled on a 3-pointer, meaning this game could be finished at the free throw line, which it was. Dallas moving on to their second conference finals with Luka Doncic. The defending champion Denver Nuggets would be taking on something that they did not see in their entire playoff run the year prior in the Minnesota Timberwolves here, which was a 50-win team. And this 50-win team apparently had the second coming of Michael Jordan. Anthony Edwards was in his bag so far in these playoffs, and 43 points in game 1 was certainly a way to set the tone. Although it couldn't be said completely how Ant wanted, because these referees gave him a tech just for staring down Reggie Jackson. But to start game 2, Michael Malone storms onto the court and throws a tantrum at the referees and does not get a tech. Anthony Edwards is just staring in disbelief at what he's witnessing. But that didn't stop Minnesota from destroying the Nuggets without their defensive player of the year Rudy Gobert, who was not at the game because he was seeing the birth of his child. They blew this team out, and Ant was really starting to play into these next Michael Jordan narratives. But Jamal Murray's antics in this game was crazy. He threw up the money sign towards the refs, and then later in the game threw both a heat pack and a towel onto the court during live play on different occasions. What in the hell is he doing? Many thought that this called for a suspension, but Adam Silver couldn't risk his guys going down 3-0 in this big series, so the league just handed him a $100,000 fine for throwing multiple objects onto the court. So let's get this straight. Rudy Gobert throws up the money signs and gets a $100K fine. Murray does the same while also throwing shit onto the court while guys are playing and gets a $100K fine. This is a crazy ass organization. But having Jamal Murray in action in game 3 proved to be huge for the Nuggets. He put up 24 points in a blowout win, and then in game 4 he did this.
That's intercepted. Murray could have been
Denver went on to win this game, evening the series back up where Ant and Murray had some words for each other as the buzzer sounded. This matchup was getting real interesting, but post-game Ant-Man was more focused on Aaron Gordon, who hit 11 of his 12 shot attempts, scoring 27 points.
Aaron Gordon.
But after having such a great start to the series, Minnesota had now found themselves down. The Nuggets took game 5, but Anthony Edwards meant that he was not going down.
Yeah, I told him, I said, I'll see y'all motherfuckers for game 7.
And he meant that shit. The Wolves were absolutely dominating this game. Anthony Edwards delivering this nasty move in the third quarter.
Edwards on the steal. Edwards, oh, what a move to the rack!
A dominant performance by the Timberwolves. This meant game 7, just like Anthony Edwards said it would happen. But Denver came out and they took control of this game early on, leading by as many as 20 points with 10 minutes to go in the third. But a 15-1 run over the next 5 minutes had them right back in this one. Minnesota wasn't quitting yet and said it was time to get in his bag, and he hit a huge shot to end the third quarter with the Wolves facing a 1-point deficit now. And this seemed to be a momentum shifter for Minnesota, as well as this ridiculous shot from Rudy Gobert to beat the shot clock, because from there they took a lead and they never looked back. Minnesota moving on to the conference finals, and Anthony Edwards letting that Nuggets crowd hear about it. A 20-point blown lead by Denver, the largest blown lead in the history of game 7s.
New op pack in the air, this gas or what?
He'll still be alive right now if you niggas ain't gas him up.
Now we had a Western Conference final to be excited about, the Dallas Mavericks and Minnesota Timberwolves. In the last series, Ant took pride in his defensive efforts against Jamal Murray, and he said he was ready to take on Kyrie the same way. But Kyrie took that personally, dropping 30 points in that Game 1 win while Anthony Edwards was completely exhausted. And Game 2 was another one that was set to have a close finish.
Go Bears out there. Doncic maneuvers for the lead. Got it! What a shot!
Luka Doncic hates this man Rudy Gobert. That's a 2-0 series lead to the Mavericks, a bad spot for Minnesota to be in heading into Dallas, but they were in a winnable Game 3, especially with a momentum shifting dunk like this one right here.
Road wins 9.
But down the stretch in this one, Dallas made all the big plays, securing a 3-0 lead which has never been overcome. The Timberwolves avoided a sweep by winning Game 4, but Luka Doncic was not having that shit in Game 5. He went out there and dropped 20 points in the first quarter alone, but that dominance was continued. This was a complete blowout of a game.
With Snoop right now.
The Dallas Mavericks now moving on to the NBA Finals with Luka holding that Western Conference Finals MVP trophy. What a run by this team, and shout out to Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves. We greatly appreciate your services this postseason. Now the Eastern Conference Finals was not expected to be all that interesting. A great all-around team in Boston against a team who is definitely lucky to be here in Indiana. But Indiana was surprisingly holding their own in this Game 1, potentially 8 seconds away from taking it.
Brown fakes, fires up the 3. Bang! Bang!
That's a massive play by Jaylen Brown to force overtime, and the Celtics went on to win in that overtime period. Game 2 was more of what we expected, with Boston being in full control throughout, but late in the game, Tyrese Halliburton suffered a hamstring injury, adding yet another name to this unbelievably long list of injuries this postseason. I don't even know what to say anymore. But Boston closed out this series in a sweep after winning 2 more close games in Indiana, Jaylen Brown getting recognized as the Eastern Conference Finals MVP as the Celtics advanced to the NBA Finals.
I wasn't expecting that at all. You know, I don't never win shit, so.
But Jaylen, you really got a chance to win some shit in this one, especially since Boston now had Kristaps Porzingis back, who absolutely took over the first quarter of Game 1 of the NBA Finals, and the Celtics maintained this dominance all the way through. They won this game convincingly, showing that they were the favorite to win this title. But Game 2 was closer, and it went down to the final minute.
Washington drives, blocked by White! Oh, what a block from Derek White!
On the other end, Jaylen Brown delivered the dagger, and that was it. A huge 2-0 lead in this series, 2 wins away from the championship for Boston. However, reports came out before the game that Kristaps Porzingis was out with a rare leg injury, meaning that Dallas had a much better chance of getting back into this series, but Boston still played like champions in this one. Now, Dallas did storm back in the fourth quarter, but just when it seemed like they had a chance, Luka Doncic fouled out of the game, and Boston put the finishing touches on this one to go up 3-0. And with all the complaining that Luka Doncic was doing during this series while being such a detriment on the defensive end for his team, the narratives were about to get nasty. The fat man Brian Windhorst had a lot to say.
His defensive performance is unacceptable. He is a hole on the court. The Celtics are attacking him. They are ahead in this series because they have attacked him defensively. And you've got a situation here where Luka is complaining about the officiating. They have begged him. They have talked with him. They have pleaded with him. He is costing his team because of how he treats the officials. His performance in this game is unacceptable, and the reason why the Mavericks are not going to win. He's got to get over this. And the fact that he came out after the game and blamed the officials showed me he's nowhere close yet. So maybe over the summer, somebody will get to him, because nobody with the Mavericks or anybody else in his life has. And that's where the Mavericks are at this point. They're never going to get to this tunnel with the trophy if he doesn't improve those aspects of his game.
But Luka bounced back in Game 4 with the Mavericks winning in a complete blowout. Surely there isn't actually hope of a comeback right here, right? Of course not. The Celtics blew their ass out in Game 5, man. When Peyton Pritchard is hitting a shot like this, you just gotta wave the white flag. That shit is over. The Celtics really meant business. Like, even up 20 here, Derek White was diving for a loose ball and he chipped his tooth. They were sacrificing everything out there. I think it's time for Dylan Does Basketball to make another one of them videos. The Boston Celtics have sold their souls and Derek White's tooth. And that concluded the 2023-2024 NBA Finals with a new champion crown and some good old Jason Tatum plagiarism.
We did it. We did it! Anything's possible. Anything's possible! What they gonna say now? What they gonna say now?
What are they gonna say now? What are they gonna say now?
They saying that Jason Tatum want to be everybody but himself, man. That shit is crazy. And y'all better put some respect on Jaylen Brown now. All that talking the offseason about no left hand, worst contract in NBA history. He's holding that Finals MVP trophy now. I'm not gonna lie though, these are some of the worst stats I've ever seen by a Finals MVP, but we just gonna act like y'all ain't see that. Well shit, man, that's finally it. What a damn season.